Hello! I wanted to make this short and sweet, but I wanted to do a quick little tutorial on some advice I have when it comes to putting blood and gore and all that kind of stuff in your map. And I say that because, and I am a bit picky about these things, I see a lot of what I think are mistakes. So let's cut right into it. This is how what I often see blood looking like with some combination of things like this. I don't see this one used as much as I would expect to be, for whatever reason. I see this one used a lot. I don't get because that looks to me like cartoon blood or like oil, especially with those bits on the edge. It's clearly supposed to be used for like a water spill or something. That's what I see when I see that. This one as well. I see this one like this a lot. I have similar objections to that. Um, it seems to me like that bottom that's supposed to be beneath the barrel or whatever, and this is how it creeps out. But that's minor stuff because sometimes it still works. I've even commented on that as much on one map. But here's the big thing. See how flat this looks? This red, I mean. See how this doesn't look like it sort of goes in, like doesn't really blend at all? You can see some blending, because if I go in here and adjust the depth, you can see, it's hard to tell, but you can see the red sort of creeping up in that. Yes, I don't. Normally, at that height, you don't see that much. Well, I'm going to show you a quick little way to make that a bit stronger. So let's get us a decal here. We're going to go back to organic. Now, you've heard me talk about this quite a lot. I don't know why that's all pixelated right now. That's odd. But this is one of my favorite decals. And again, something going not loading correctly. See all those. Whatever. We'll fix that in a bit. But you see, it's got all this sheen, all this glisten to it. It sort of, or like it sort of bleeds out and fades away. Well, if you take this, put it right on top of this, you'll notice you'll see some issues. What I will do is I'll get it situated, select it, set up to, let's try 200 depth. I know that they say depth can result in issues in your map because it's kind of like it's calculating that decal many, many times over. I have not run into that issue yet. I really haven't. And not at the, and I put decals all over the place and I just have not seen it. I'm having some trouble getting it on there right now. I could put it there and then duplicate it out like this. There's a few things, a few options I would kind of have here. I could do all sorts of things where I could change its opacity a bit. I might make it where it doesn't extend beyond the blood. And you see how already that changed? Now the only downside is because I have it set that particular red, see it looks very, I wish there was a way to deselect decals and there is not. Like to have them not highlight. It's obnoxious. I can't do this. Sorry. I can't lock those. Anyway. Oh god. But see the glisten, but you see how it looks kind of organic, how it looks very growing, and you may not want that much. But if you take this, actually take this, and if you turn it to a different color, you might get better results. I would turn that brighter. I can also do things like I can mess with the opacity a bit, some of these different things, and but my point is you can play with it and get it to look more or less obvious if you want, but because it sort of naturally fades out. Now, if you make it really bright, like for example, if I do this, you'll see there's the edges. You got to be careful of that. But as long as you leave the opacity in a place like its default or on the blood, then you're probably going to get it where it fades out relatively naturally, especially when like you can see the edges of it there. But if I this is why I had this on. If I turn this I come on. If I turned this into a different thing, then it can be less obvious, especially if you add in some extra grunge decals. There's ways to make this work. See how you can use this already. Turn like that into this. And that took me 2 seconds. And that's not even, I wouldn't even be done with that, because again, that looks very organic. You can see it plays with the light better, it's got a lot more sheen, it blends better, it looks so much more, like there's depth and gore, and like, might be tissues in there if we want to get gross enough. But I think you see my point. And let's toy around just a bit longer here, because there's a lot of other things in organic that I love to use. If you played the Derelict, that series, or the Hell Gullet, or any of those, and you'll see a lot of this. I made a big point in those about having creep, that like the gore was kind of alive and it would sort of expand outwards. And you can see how with just a few steps, like I can even do, really, you really honestly can't tell unless you're looking very closely. Um, I can make something look like there's just a lot you can make this feel very alive if you wanted to. And it can also go up on that, which I know you can't see right now. I could rig up the camera. In fact, why don't I do that? Sorry that I apparently have too much stuff running on my computer. Just see, like compare this. Put some lamps on there as well. It's very. Oh, because this said the Lazarus. So you can see like how much more alive that looks. This, that, this. And again, like I'm saying alive because I have all this stuff up here. If you also wanted to, that's not the end of it. Like there's some of these are better at having some depth to them than others. That's actually one reason that I really hate this one, unless I'm trying to make oil, because it's just so flat. But there are a number that do have a lot more depth to them. And I like to, sometimes I might stack some of those together. This one is one I see people use a lot, but as you can see, that doesn't look like a natural tapering out of like the end of a thing, unless it's like an amoeba, right? But if you put that, say, in the middle of some of this, and then make the color match a bit more, like that already looks more like there's blood and bubbles and tissues, and I could again do more to tweak it and make it look like what you might do is if you had I did this a couple times. Let's say you had some hanging bodies. Where are my hanging bodies? They're down here. Yeah, we'll do. Let's say you had some hanging bodies. Or I had one that I had eviscerated hanging upside down. If you do that, it looks like just paint. This, it looks like not only did blood come out, but other things were coming out of that onto this. And you can see just how much that can add and just how quickly. Really, if you stack these a couple times, let's make this one darker for me. Stack these a couple times, get very cool things going there. And again, it plays with light very well, so you put lighting on it, make it really pop. There's all sorts of things. And that's pretty much just all I wanted to show you. Again, I know that all this, I kind of went into growth territory as opposed to pure territory, blood. But I really hope that you see there's some things you can do to make this stuff taper and make the illusion that it's not just sort of a block that's sitting there on top of paint. Anyway, that's just something I appreciate. I see a lot of map makers who are putting in the effort to put bodies and gore and all this and that and the other around their map, and it really pains me when they aren't doing things like this, and they may not have fiddled with it with the insane amount of time that I have to figure this out, because it could look so much better. So I hope this helps a few of you. I hope you use it, and anything any of you are doing to keep the snap mapping community alive and keep it going. Just more of that, the better. I hope this helped. Feel free to comment with questions or suggestions, or say, hey, I used it in my map, take a look, did I do it right, what'd you think? Share this to anyone else who is trying to do their own map making. You get the idea. I hope this helped. Thank you very much, and take care.